We would like to welcome everyone to our Sunday reading of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. And we'd like to begin by offering our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivisesa Sunyabari Pasacha Desatarine. And to each other, Panchakalpa Darubhyascha Kripa Sindhue Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnanebhyo Namo Namaha. We are very fortunate to get to come to Krishna and Prabhupada's room in Vrindavan to read Krishna book. If everyone could kindly sit up straight and look up once a while at Srila Prabhupada, because we are personally reading to him. Hold the microphone closely to your mouth and read slowly with expression. So today, open up the Krishna book. We are on the chapter 88. So the deliverance of Lord Shiva. So as everyone is ready, as a great devotee of Krishna, King Parikshit was already liberated, but for clarification, he was asking various questions of Sukadeva Goswami. In the previous chapter, King Parikshit's question was, what is the ultimate goal of the Vedas? And Sukadeva Goswami explained the matter, giving authoritative descriptions from the disciplic succession from Sanandana down to Narayana Rishi, Narada, Vyasadeva, and then Sukadeva himself. The conclusion was that devotional service, or bhakti, is the ultimate goal of the Vedas. A neophyte devotee may question if the ultimate goal of life, or the conclusion of the Vedas, is to elevate oneself to the platform of devotional service, then why is it observed that a devotee of Lord Vishnu is generally not very prosperous materially, whereas a devotee of Lord Shiva is found to be very opulent? In order to clarify this matter, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, "My dear Sukadeva Goswami, it is generally found that those who engage in the worship of Lord Shiva, whether in human, demoniac, or demigod society, become materially very opulent, although Lord Shiva himself lives just like a poverty-stricken person. On the other hand, the devotees of Lord Vishnu, who is the controller of the goddess of fortune, do not appear very prosperous, and sometimes they are even found living without any material opulence at all. Lord Shiva lives underneath a tree or in the snow of the Himalayan mountains. He does not even construct a house for himself. But still, the worshippers of Lord Shiva are very rich. Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, however, lives very opulently, whether in Vaikuntha or in the material world, but his devotees appear poverty-stricken. Why is this so?
Maharaj Parikshit's question is very intelligent. The two classes of devotees, namely devotees of Lord Shiva and devotees of Lord Vishnu, are always in disagreement. Even today in India, these two classes of devotees still criticize each other, and especially in South India, the followers of Ramanujacharya and the followers of Shankaracharya hold occasional meeting for understanding the Vedic conclusion. Generally, the followers of Ramanujacharya come out victorious in such meetings. So Parikshit Maharaj wanted to clarify the situation by asking this question of Sukadeva Goswami. The Lord Shiva lives as a poor man, although his devotees appear very opulent, whereas Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu is always opulent, and yet his devotee appear poverty-stricken. Is a situation which appears contradictory and puzzling to the discriminating person. Replying to King Parikshit's inquiry, Sukadeva Goswami said that the Lord Shiva is the master of material energy. The material energy is represented by goddess Durga, and because Lord Shiva happened to be her husband, goddess Durga is completely under his subjugation. Thus, Lord Shiva is understood to be the master of the material energy. The material energy is manifested in three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And therefore, Lord Shiva is the master of these three qualities. Although he is in association with these qualities for the benefit of the conditioned soul, Lord Shiva is their director and is not affected. In other words, although the conditioned soul is affected by three qualities, Lord Shiva, being their master, is not.
From the statement of Sukadeva Goswami, we can understand that the effects of worshipping different demigods are not as same. Some less intelligent person suppose the same as the effects of the worshipping Lord Vishnu. Sukadeva Goswami clearly states that by worshipping Lord Shiva, one achieves one reward, whereas by worshipping Lord Vishnu, one achieves a different reward. This is confirmed in Bhagavad-Gita. Those who worship the different demigods achieve desired result. The representative demigod can reward similarly. Those who worship the material energy receive the suitable reward for such activities, and those who worship the Pittas receives similarly result. But those who engage in devotional service or in worship of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu or Krishna, go to the Vaikuntha planet or Krishna Loka. One cannot approach the transcendental region or the Parvarinin, the spiritual sky, by worshipping Lord Shiva or Brahma or any other demigods. Since this material world is a product of three qualities of the material nature, all varieties of manifestation come from those three qualities. With the aid of materialist science, modern civilization has created many machines and comforts, yet they are only varieties of interactions of the three material qualities. Although the devotee of Lord Shiva are able to obtain many material acquisition, we should know that such devotees are simply collecting products manufactured by the three qualities. The three qualities are again subdivided into 16, namely the 10 senses, 5 working senses, and the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the mind and the 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and sky. These 16 items are extensions of the three qualities. Material happiness or the opulences means gratification of the senses, especially the genital, the tongue, and the mind. By executing our mind, we create many pleasurable things just for the enjoyment. By the genital and the tongue, the opulences of a person within this material world is estimated in terms of his exercise of the genital and the tongue, or in other words, how well he is able to utilize his sexual capacity and how well he is able to satisfy his frustration taste by eating palatable dishes. Material advancement of the civilization necessity creates object of the enjoyment by material connection just to become happy on the base of these two principles, pleasure for genital and pleasure for the tongue. Herein lies the answer to the King Parikshit question to Sukdev Goswami as to why the worshipper of Lord Shiva are so opulent.
The devotee of Lord Shiva are opulent only in terms of the material qualities. Actually, such so-called advancement of civilization is the cause of entanglement in material existence. It is actually not advancement but degradation. The conclusion is that because Lord Shiva is the master of the three qualities, his devotees are given things manufactured by the interactions of these qualities for the satisfaction of the senses. In the Bhagavad-Gita, however, we get instruction from Lord Krishna that one has to transcend this qualitative existence. Nisray Guna Bhavarjanam. The mission of human life is to become transcendental to these three qualities. Unless one is Nisray Gunya, he can't get free from material entanglement. In other words, favors received from Lord Shiva are not actually beneficial to the conditioned souls, although materially such facilities seem opulent.
Okay. Shukdev Goswami continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is transcendental to the three qualities of material nature. In the Bhagavad-Gita, the Lord states that anyone who surrenders unto him surpasses the control of the three qualities of material nature. Therefore, since Hari's devotees are transcendental to the control of three material qualities, certainly he himself is transcendental. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is therefore stated that Hari or Krishna is the original Supreme Personality. There are two kinds of prakritis or potencies, namely the internal potency and the external potency. And Krishna is the overlord of both. He is Sarvatrik, or the overseer of all the actions of the internal and external potencies. And he is also described as the supreme advisor, because he is the supreme advisor. He is the above all the demigods who merely follow the directions of the supreme advisor. As such, if one directly follows the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord, as inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then one gradually becomes nirguna, or above the interaction of the material qualities. To be nirguna means to be perfect of material opulences, because, as we have explained, material opulence means an increase of the actions and reactions of the three material qualities. By worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, instead of being puffed up with material opulences, one becomes enriched with spiritual advancement of knowledge in Krishna consciousness. To become Nirguna means to achieve eternal peace, fearlessness, religiousness, knowledge, and renunciation. All these are symptoms of becoming free from the contamination of the material qualities.
Sukdev Goswami, in answering Parikshit Maharaj's question, went on to cite a historical instance regarding Parikshit Maharaj's grandfather, King Yudhishthir. He said that after finishing the Ashwamedha sacrifice in the great sacrificial arena, King Yudhishthir, in the presence of great authorities, inquired from Lord Krishna on that very same point. How is that the Lord devotee of Lord Shiva become materially opulent, whereas the devotees of Lord Vishnu do not? Sukdev Goswami specifically referred to King Yudhishthir as your grandfather, so that Maharaj Parikshit will be encouraged to think that he was related to Krishna and that his grandfathers were intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although by nature Krishna is always very satisfied, when Maharaj Yudhishthir asked this question, the Lord became even more satisfied because this question and its answer would bear a great meaning for the entire Krishna conscious society. Whenever Lord Krishna speaks about something to a specific devotee, it is meant not only for that devotee but for all devotees, and indeed for the entire human society. Instructions by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are important even to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods. And if one does not take advantage of the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends within this world for the benefit of all living entities, he is certainly very unfortunate.
Lord Krishna answered the question of Maharaja Yudhishthira as follows. If I especially favor a devotee and especially wish to care for him, the first thing I do is take away his riches. When the devotee becomes a penniless pauper or is put into a comparatively poverty-stricken position, his relatives and family members no longer take interest in him, and in most cases, they give up their connection with him. The devotee then becomes doubly unhappy. First of all, the devotee becomes unhappy because his riches have been taken away by Krishna. And he is even more unhappy when his relatives desert him because of his poverty. We should note, however, that when a devotee falls into miserable condition in this way, it is not due to past impious activities known as karma phala. The poverty of the devotee is a creation of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, when a devotee becomes materially opulent, that is also not due to his pious activities. In either case, whether the devotee becomes poorer or richer, the arrangement is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This arrangement is especially made by Krishna for his devotee just to make him completely dependent upon him and to free him from all material obligations. He can then concentrate his energies, mind, and body, everything, for the service of the Lord, and that is pure devotional service. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is therefore explained, Sarvopadhi Vinimuktam, which means being freed from all designations.
Works performed for family, society, community, nation, or humanity are all designated. I belong to this society. I belong to this community. I belong to this nation. I belong to this specific life. Such identities are all materially designations. When, by the great grace of Lord, a devotee is freed from all designation, his devotional service is actually niskarmya. Jnanis are very much attracted by the position of niskarmya, in which one's activities no longer have a material effect. The devotee's activities are freed from material effects, and so these activities are no longer in a category of a karma phalam or fruitive activities. As explained before by the personified Vedas, the happiness and distress of devotee are produced by the personality of Godhead, and the devotee therefore does not care whether he is in happiness or in distress. He goes on with the duties in executing the devotional service. Although his behavior seems to be subject to the action and reaction of fruitive activities, he is actually freed from the result of action.
It may be questioned why a devotee is put into such tribulation by the personality of Godhead. The answer is that this kind of arrangement by Lord is just like a father sometimes become unkind to his sons, because the devotee is a surrendered soul and is taken charge of by the Supreme Lord. Whatever condition of life the Lord puts him in, whether one of the distress or of happiness, it is to be understood that behind this arrangement is a large plan designed by the personality of Godhead. For example, Lord Krishna puts the Pandavas into distress condition to acute that even grandfather Bhishma could not compare how such distress could occur. He lamented that although the whole Pandavas family was headed by King Yudhishthir, the most pious king, and protected by the two great warriors Bhim and Arjun, and although above all the Pandavas were all intimate friends and the relatives of Lord Krishna, they still had to undergo such tribulation. Later, however, it was proved that this was planned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as a part of his great mission to annihilate the miscreant and to protect the devotees.
Another question may be raised. What is the difference between a devotee and a common man? Since both are put into different kinds of happy and distressful conditions, the devotee, by the arrangement of the personality of Godhead, and the common man as a result of his past deeds, how is the devotee any better than the ordinary karmi? The answer is that the karmis and the devotees are not on the same level. In whatever condition of life the karmi may be, he continues in the cycle of birth and death because of the seed of karma or fruitive activity is there, and it fructifies whenever there is an opportunity. By the law of karma, a common man is perpetually entangled in repeated birth and death, whereas a devotee's distress and happiness, not being under the laws of karma, are part of a temporary arrangement by the Supreme Lord, which does not entangle the devotee. Such an arrangement is made by the Lord only to serve a temporary purpose. If a karmi performs auspicious acts, he is elevated to the heavenly planets, and if he acts impiously, he is put into a hellish condition. But whether a devotee acts in a so-called pious or impious manner, he is neither elevated nor degraded, but is transferred to the spiritual kingdom. Therefore, a devotee's happiness and distress and a karmi's happiness and distress are not in the same level. This fact is corroborated by a speech by Yamaraja to his servants in connection with the liberation of Ajamila. Yamaraja advised his followers that only persons who have never uttered the holy name of the Lord or remembered the form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord should be approached by his watchguards. Yamaraja also advised his servants never to approach the devotees. On the contrary, he instructed his messengers that if they meet a devotee, they should offer the respectful obeisances. So, there is no question of a devotee being promoted or degraded within this material world. As there is a gulf of difference between the punishment awarded by the mother and the punishment awarded by an enemy. So, a devotee's distress is not the same as the distress of a common karmi.
Here another question may be raised. If the Supreme Lord is all powerful, why should he try to reform his devotees by putting him in distress? The answer is that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead puts his devotee in distress, it is not without purpose. Sometimes the purpose is that in distress a devotee's feeling of attachment to Krishna are magnified. For example, when Krishna, before leaving the capital of Pandavas for his home, asked Kunti Devi for permission to leave. She said, "My dear Krishna, in our distress you were always present with us. Now because we have been elevated to a royal position, you are leaving us. I would therefore prefer to live in a distress than to lose you." When a devotee is put into a situation of distress, his devotional activities are accelerated. Therefore, to show special favor to a devotee, the Lord sometimes puts him into distress. Besides that, it is stated that the sweetness of happiness is sweeter to those who have tasted bitterness. The Supreme Lord descends to this material world just to protect his devotees from distress. In other words, if devotees were not in a distressed condition, the Lord would not have come down. As for his killing the demons or the miscreants, this can be easily done by his various energies, just as many asuras are killed by his external energy. Goddess Durga, external energy, Goddess Durga. Therefore, the Lord doesn't need to come down personally to kill such demons. But when his devotee is in distress, he must come. Lord Narsihadev appeared not in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, but to save Prahlad and to give him blessings. In other words, because Prahlad Maharaj was put into very great distress, the Lord appeared.
When after the dance, dark night, there is finally sunrise in the morning. It is very pleasant. When there is scorching heat, cold water is very pleasant. And when there is freezing winter, hot water is very pleasant. Similarly, when a devotee, after experiencing the distress of the material world, relishes the spiritual happiness awarded by the Lord, his position is still more pleasant and enjoyable. The Lord continued, "When my devotee is bereft of all material riches and is deserted by his relatives, friends, and family members because he has no one to look after him, he completely takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord." Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in this connection, "My dear Lord Krishna, O son of Nand Maharaj, you are now standing before me with Srimati Radharani, the daughter of King Vrishbhanu. I am now surrendering unto you. Please accept me. Please do not kick me away. I have no shelter other than you."
When a devotee is thus put into so-called miserable conditions and bereft of riches and family, he tries to revive his original position of material opulence. But although he tries again and again, Krishna again and again takes away all his resources. Thus, he finally becomes disappointed in material activities. And in that stage of frustration in all endeavors, he can fully surrender unto Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such persons are advised by the Lord from within to associate with devotees. By associating with devotees, they naturally become inclined to render service to the Personality of Godhead, and they immediately get all facilities from the Lord to advance in Krishna consciousness. The non-devotees, however, are very careful ever preserving their material conditions of life. Generally, therefore, such non-devotees do not come to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but worship Lord Shiva or other demigods for immediate material profit. In Bhagavad-Gita, it is said, therefore, kankshataha karmanam siddhim jajant iha devataha. The karmis, in order to achieve success within this material world, worship the various demigods. It is also stated by Lord Krishna that those who worship the demigods are not mature in their intelligence. The devotees of Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, because of the strong attachment for Him, do not foolishly go to the demigods.
Lord Krishna said to King Yudhishthir, "My devotee is not deterred by any adverse conditions of life. He always remains firm and steady. Therefore, I give myself to him. And I favor him so that he can achieve the highest success of life." The mercy bestowed upon the tried devotee by the Supreme Personality is described as Brahma, which indicates that the greatness of that mercy can be compared only to the all-pervasive greatness of Brahman. Brahma means unlimitedly great and unlimitedly expanding. That mercy is also described as Paramam, for it has no comparison within this material world, and it is also called Sukshmam, very fine. Not only is the Lord's mercy upon the tried devotee great and unlimitedly expansive, but it is of the finest quality of transcendental love between the devotee and the Lord. Such mercy is further described as Chin Matram, completely spiritual. The use of the word Matram indicates absolute spirituality with no tinge of material qualities. That mercy is also called Sat, eternal, Anantakam, unlimited. Since the devotee of the Lord is awarded such unlimited spiritual benefit, why should he worship the demigods? A devotee of Krishna does not worship Lord Shiva or Brahma or any other subordinate demigod. He completely devotes himself to the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you for your reading. We'd like to request devotees to slow with slower story for Srila Prabhupada and for those who listening through online. Thank you. Shukadeva Goswami continued. The demigods, headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and including Lord Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and others, are apt to be very quickly satisfied or very quickly angered by the good or ill behavior of their devotees. But this is not so with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. This means that every living entity within this material world, including the demigods, is conducted by the three modes of material nature, and therefore the qualities of ignorance and passion are very prominent within the material world. Those devotees who take blessings from the demigods are also infected within the material qualities, especially passion and ignorance. Lord Sri Krishna has therefore stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that to take blessings from the demigods is less intelligent, because when one takes benedictions from the demigods, the results of such benedictions are temporary. It is easy to get material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but the result is sometimes disastrous. As such, the benedictions derived from demigods are appreciated only by the less intelligent class of men. Persons who derive benedictions from the demigods gradually become puffed up with material opulence and neglectful of their benefactors.
Sukadeva Goswami addressed King Pariksit thus: My dear king, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, the principal trio of the material creation, are able to bless, of course, anyone. Of this trio, the Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva are very easily satisfied, but also very easily angered. When satisfied, they give benediction without consideration, and when angry, they curse the devotee without consideration. But the Lord Vishnu is not like that. Lord Vishnu is very considerate. Whenever a devotee wants something from Lord Vishnu, first consider whether such benediction will ultimately be good for the devotee. The Lord Vishnu never bestows any benediction which will ultimately prove disastrous to the devotee. By his transcendental nature, he is always merciful. Therefore, before giving any benediction, he considers whether it will prove beneficial for devotee. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very merciful, even when it appears that he has killed a demon, or even when apparently becomes angry toward the devotee, his actions are very auspicious. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore known as all good. Whatever he does is good.
As for the benediction given by the demigods like Lord Shiva, there is the following historical incident created by the great sages. Once Lord Shiva, after giving benediction to the demon named Vatasur, the son of Shakuni, was himself entrapped in very dangerous position. Vatasur was searching after benediction and trying to decide which of the three preceding deities to worship in order to get it. In the meantime, he happened to meet the great sages Narada and consulted with him as to whom should approach to achieve quick results from his austerity. He inquired of these three deities, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, who is most quickly satisfied. Narada could understand the plan of the demon, and he advised him, You had better worship Lord Shiva, then you will quickly get the desired result. Lord Shiva is very quickly satisfied and very quickly dissatisfied also. So you try to satisfy Lord Shiva. Narada also created instances wherein demons like Ravana and Manasura were inculcated with the great opulences simply by satisfying Lord Shiva. Simply by satisfying Lord Shiva with prayers. Because the great sages Narada was aware of the nature of the demon Vitasur, he did not advise him to approach Lord Vishnu or Lord Brahma. Persons such as Vitasur, who are situated in the material modes of ignorance, cannot stick to the worship of Vishnu. After receiving instruction from Narada, the demon Vitasur went to Kedarnath. The pilgrim site of the Kedarnath still exists near Kashmir. It is almost always covered by the snow, but for parts of the year, during the month of July, it is possible to see the deity and the devotee go there to offer their respects. Kedarnath is for the devotee of Lord Shiva. According to the Vedic principle, when something is offered to the deities to eat, it is offered in fire. Therefore, a fire sacrifice is necessary in all sort of ceremonies. It is specially stated in the Shastras that gods are to be offered something to eat through the fire. The demon Vidasur therefore went to Kedarnath and initiated a sacrificial fire to please Lord Shiva.
After igniting the fire in the name of Lord Shiva to please him, Vrikasura began to offer his own flesh by cutting it from his body. Here is an instance of worship in the mode of ignorance. In the Bhagavad-Gita, different types of sacrifices are mentioned. Some sacrifices are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. There are different kinds of tapasya and worship because there are different kinds of people within this world. But the ultimate tapasya, Krishna consciousness, is the topmost yoga and the topmost sacrifice. As confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita, the topmost yoga is to think always of Lord Krishna within the heart, and the topmost sacrifice is to perform the Sankirtana Yajna.
In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the worshippers of the demigod have lost their intelligence. As revealed later in the chapter, Vrikasura wanted to satisfy Lord Shiva for a third-class materialistic objective, which was temporary and without real benefit. The asuras or persons within the mode of ignorance will accept such benedictions from the demigods. In complete contrast to the sacrifice in the mode of ignorance, the Archana Vidhi process for worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he accepts from his devotees even a little fruit, a flower, or some water, which can be gathered by any person, rich or poor. Of course, those who are rich are not expected to offer only a little water, a little piece of fruit, or a little leaf to the Lord. A rich man should offer according to his position. But if the devotee happens to be a very poor man, the Lord will accept even the most meager offering. The worship of the Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple, and it can be executed by anyone in this world. But worship in the mode of ignorance, as exhibited by Vrikasura, is not only very difficult and painful, but is also a useless waste of time. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says that the worshippers of the demigod are bereft of intelligence. Their process of worship is very difficult, and at the same time, the result obtained is flickering and temporary.
Although Vrikasura continued his sacrifice for 6 days, he was unable to personally see Lord Shiva, which was his objective. He wanted to see him face to face and ask him for a benediction. Here is another contrast between demons and devotees. A devotee is confident that whatever he offers to the deity in full devotional service is accepted by the Lord. But a demon wants to see his worshipable deity face to face so that he can directly take the benediction. A devotee does not worship Vishnu or Lord Krishna for any benediction. Therefore, a devotee is called akama, free of desire, and a non-devotee is called sarvakama, or desirous of everything. On the 7th day, the demon Vrikasura decided that he should cut off his head and offered it to satisfied Lord Shiva. Thus he took a bath in a nearby lake and without drying his body and hair, he prepared to cut off his head. According to the Vedic system, an animal to be offered as a sacrifice has to be bathed first, and while the animal is wet, it is sacrificed. When the demon was thus preparing to cut off his head, Lord Shiva became very compassionate. This compassion is a symptom of the quality of goodness. Lord Shiva is called Trilinga, a mixture of three material qualities. Therefore, his manifestation of the nature of compassion is a sign of the quality of goodness. This compassion, however, is the present in every living entity. The compassion of Lord Shiva was aroused not because the demon was offering his flesh into the sacrificial fire, but because he was about to commit suicide. This is a natural compassion. Even if a common man sees someone preparing to commit suicide, he will try to save him. He does so automatically. There is no need to appeal to him. Therefore, when Lord Shiva appeared from the fire to check the demon from suicide, it was not done as a very great favor to him.
Lord Shiva's touch saved the demon from committing suicide. His bodily injuries immediately healed, and his body became as it was before. Then Lord Shiva told the demon, "My dear Brikasur, you do not need to cut off your head. You may ask for me any benediction you like, and I shall fulfill your desire. I do not know why you wanted to cut off your head to satisfy me. I become satisfied even by offering up a little water. Actually, according to the Vedic process, the Shiva Linga in the temple or the form of Lord Shiva in the temple is worshipped simple by offering Ganges water, because it is said that Lord Shiva is greatly satisfied when Ganga's water is poured upon his head. Generally, devotees offer Ganga's water on the leaves of the willow tree, which are especially meant for offering to Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. The fruit of this tree is also offered to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva assured Brikasur that he is satisfied by a very simple process of worship. Why then was he so eager to cut off his head? And why was he taking so much pain by cutting his body to pieces and offering it in the fire? There is no need to such severe penance. Anyway, out of compassion and sympathy, Lord Shiva prepared to give him any benediction he liked.
When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, he asked for a fearful and abominable benediction. The demon was very sinful, and sinful persons do not know what sort of benediction should be asked from the deity. Therefore, he asked Lord Shiva to bless him with such power that as soon as he would touch anyone's head, it would immediately crack and the man would die. The demons are described in the Bhagavad-Gita as dushkritis or miscreants. Kriti means very meritorious, but when duh is added to it means abominable. Instead of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the dushkritis worship different demigods to derive abominable material benefits. Although the dushkritis have brain power and merit, their merit and brain power are used for abominable activities. Sometimes, for example, materialistic scientists invent a lethal weapon. The scientific research for such an invention certainly requires a very good brain, but instead of inventing something beneficial to human society, they invent something to accelerate death, which is already assured to every man. They cannot show their meritorious power by inventing something which can save man from death. Instead, they invent weapons which accelerate the process of death. Similarly, Vrakasur, instead of asking Lord Shiva for something beneficial to human society, asked for something very dangerous to human society. Lord Shiva is powerful even to give any benediction, powerful enough to give any benediction, so the demon could have asked something beneficial from him, but for his personal interest, he asked that anyone whose head would be touched by his hand would at once die. Lord Shiva could understand the motive of the demon, and he was very sorry that he had assured him whatever benediction he liked. He could not withdraw his promise, but he was very sorry in his heart. But he was very sorry in his heart that he was to offer him a benediction so dangerous to human society. Devotees of the personality of Godhead never ask any benediction from Lord Vishnu or Krishna, and even if they ask something from the Lord, it is not at all dangerous for human society. That is the difference between the demons and the devotees, or the worshippers of Lord Shiva and the worshippers of Lord Vishnu.
While Sukadev Goswami was narrating the history of Vikasura, he addressed Maharaj Parikshit as Bharata, referring to King Parikshit's birth in a family of devotees. Maharaja Parikshit was saved by Lord Krishna while in his mother's womb. Later, he could have asked Lord Krishna to save him again from the curse of Brahmana, but he did not do so. The demon, however, wanted to become immortal by killing everyone with the touch of his hand. Lord Shiva could understand this, but because he had promised, he gave him the benediction. The demon, however, being very sinful, immediately decided that he would use the benediction to kill Lord Shiva and take away Gauri, Parvati, for his personal enjoyment. He immediately decided to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Thus, Lord Shiva was put into an awkward position because he was endangered by his own benediction to a demon. This is an instance of a materialistic devotees misusing the power derived from the demigods.
Without further deliberation, the demon Vatrasur approached Lord Shiva to place his hands on Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva was so afraid of him that his body trembled, and he fled from the land to the sky, and from the sky to other planets, until he reached the limits of the universe. Above the higher planetary system, Lord Shiva fled from one place to another, but the demon Vatrasura continued to chase him. The predominating deities of the other planets, such as Brahma, Indra, Chandra, could not find any way to save Lord Shiva from the impending danger. Wherever Lord Shiva went, they remained silent. At last, Lord Shiva approached Lord Vishnu, who is situated within the universe on the planet known as Svetadip. Svetadip is the local Vaikuntha planet, beyond the jurisdiction of the influence of external energy. Lord Vishnu, in his all-pervasive features, remains everywhere, but wherever he remains personally is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is stated that Lord remains within the heart of all living entities. As such, the Lord remains within the heart of many low-born living entities. But that does not mean he is low-born. Wherever he remains is transformed into Vaikuntha. So, the planet within this universe, known as the Svetadvip, is also Vaikuntha Loka. It is said in the Shastra that residential quarters within the forest are in a mode of goodness. Residential quarters in the big cities, known town, village, and in a mode of passion, are in a mode of passion. And residential quarters in atmosphere where indulges in the four sinful activities of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling predominates are in the mode of ignorance. But residential quarters in the temple of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, are in the Vaikuntha. It does not matter where the temple is situated. The temple itself, wherever it may be, is Vaikuntha. Similarly, the Svetadvipa planet, although within the material jurisdiction, is Vaikuntha.
Lord Shiva finally entered Svetadvip, Vaikuntha. In Svetadvip there are great saintly persons who are completely freed from the envious nature of the material world and are beyond the durations of the four principles of material activities, namely religious, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Anyone who enters into the Vaikuntha planet never returns to this material world. Lord Narayana is celebrated as the lover of his devotees, and as soon as he understands that Lord Shiva was in great danger, he appeared as a brahmachari and personally approached Lord Shiva to receive him from a distant place. The Lord appeared as a perfect brahmachari with a belt around his waist, a secret thread, a deer skin, a brahmachari stick, and the Rudra beads. Rudra beads are different from the Tulsi beads. Rudra beads are used by devotees of Lord Shiva. Dressed as a brahmachari, Lord Narayana stood before Lord Shiva. The shining effulgence emanates from his body, attracted not only Lord Shiva but also the demon Vidasur.
Lord Narayana offered his respects and obeisances unto Vrikasura just to attract his sympathy and attention. Thus, stopping the demon, the Lord addressed him as follows: My dear son of Sakuni, you appear very tired, as if coming from a very distant place. What is your purpose? Why have you come so far? I see that you are fatigued, so I request you to take a little rest. You should not unnecessarily tire your body. Everyone greatly values his body because only with the body can one fulfill all the desires of one's mind. We should not therefore unnecessarily give trouble to the body. The brahmachari addressed Vrikasura as the son of Sakuni just to convince him that he was known to his father Sakuni. Vrikasura then took the brahmachari to be someone known to his family, and therefore the brahmachari's sympathetic words appealed to him. Before the demon could argue that he had no time to take rest, the Lord informed him about the importance of the body, and the demon was convinced. Any man, especially a demon, take his body to be very important. Thus, Vrikasura became convinced about the importance of his body.
Then, just to pacify the demon, the brahmachari told him, My dear Lord, if you think that you can disclose the mission for which you have taken the trouble to come here, maybe I shall be able to help you, so that your purpose will be easily served. Indirectly, the Lord informed him that because the Lord is the supreme Brahman, he would certainly be able to adjust the awkward situation created by Lord Shiva. The demon was greatly pacified by the sweet words of Lord Narayana in the form of a brahmachari, and at last it disclosed all that had happened in regard to the benediction offered by Lord Shiva. The Lord replied to the demon as follows: I myself can't believe that Lord Shiva has in truth given you such a benediction. As far as I know, Lord Shiva is not in a sane mental condition. When he had a quarrel with his father-in-law Daksha, he was cursed to become a pishacha, ghost. Thus, he has become the leader of the ghosts and hobgoblins. Therefore, I can't put any faith in his words. But if you still have faith in the words of Lord Shiva, my dear king of the demons, then why don't you make an experiment by putting your hand on your own head? If the benediction proves false, then you can at once kill this liar Lord Shiva, so that in the future he will not dare give out false benediction.
In this way, by Lord Narayana's sweet words and by the expansion of his superior illusion, the demon became bewildered. And he actually forgot the power of Lord Shiva and his benediction. He was thus very easily persuaded to put his hand on his own head. As soon as the demon did that, his head cracked as if struck by a thunderbolt, and he immediately died. The demigods from heaven showered flowers on Lord Narayana, praising him with shouts of all glories and all thanksgivings. And they offered their obeisances to the Lord. On the death of Brikasur, all the denizens and in the higher planetary system, namely the demigods, the Pitras, the Gandharvas, and the inhabitants of Janaloka, showered flowers on the personality of Godhead.
Thus Lord Vishnu, in the form of a brahmachari, released Lord Shiva from the impending danger and saved the whole situation. Lord Narayan then informed Lord Shiva that this demon, Vrikashura, was killed as the result of his sinful activities. He was especially sinful and offensive because he wanted to experiment on his own master, Lord Shiva. Lord Narayan then told Lord Shiva, My dear Lord, a person who commits an offense to great souls cannot continue to exist. He is vanquished by his own sinful activities. And this is certainly true of this demon, who has committed such an offensive act against you. Thus, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is transcendental to all material qualities, Lord Shiva was saved from being killed by a demon. Anyone who hears his history with faith and devotion is certainly liberated from material entanglement as well as from the clutches of his devout enemies. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 88th chapter of Krsna, the deliverance of Lord Shiva. Before we end, I'd like to read a message from Mahadevi Mataji, who is the facilitator of this Krishna book reading. I offer my grateful pranams to all of you. I'm always participating online when physically not there. Krishna book reading to Prabhupada was much better this week because everyone was reading slower with more expression. Prabhupada must be pleased with your service, Jai. So, we will end our hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada with a deep gratitude. We would like to thank Srila Prabhupada for allowing us to come here and read to him. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasad Putale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivasisa Sunyabari Pasyatya Desatarine. And to each other, Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.